There's a certain hour in a taxi driver's life when the city falls completely silent. It's not midnight with its drunk crowds, and it's not the early morning rush when workers head out for their shifts. It's that deep, heavy stretch of night, somewhere between 3 and 4, when the city seems to slip out of time. The streets are empty. Street lights spill dull orange light across the wet pavement, and it feels like you're the only living person for miles. That's when I picked him up. My old sedan rolled through puddles, tires whispering against the asphalt. The rain that started earlier hadn't stopped. It turned into a cold, steady drizzle. I was about to call it a night, head back to the depot, turn in my shift, and drive home, when I saw him. A figure by an old bus stop. No shelter, just a sign and darkness. He stood completely still, didn't try to hide from the rain, didn't wave. He just stood there, and something about that felt wrong. I slowed down. Instinct told me to keep driving, but work is work. I rolled down the window. Where to? No answer. He opened the back door and got in. The car dipped slightly. The door shut. I glanced in the rearview mirror. A dark coat, old-fashioned, soaked. His face was hidden in shadow beneath a lowered hat, but I saw his hands, pale, long fingers, perfectly still. Address? I asked again, keeping my voice steady. Silence, just rain tapping on the roof. I felt irritation creeping in. Look, I can't drive you nowhere. Tell me where to go, or I'm dropping you off. Then he spoke. His voice was low, dull, like it came from underwater. Old Riverside Cemetery, main gate. A chill ran through me. That place had been closed for decades, out past the industrial zone. People didn't go there. But a fair is a fair. I nodded, started the meter and drove. He didn't move the entire ride. I checked the mirror again and again. Nothing. No movement. No breathing. Like a mannequin. And the cold. It wasn't normal. It seeped into the car. Into me. Even with the heater blasting. Unease turned into fear. Raw, instinctive fear. I drove faster. Just to end the ride. Industrial zone. Rusty fences. Broken factories. Empty windows. Then I saw the gates, Old Riverside Cemetery. I stopped. We're here. That'll be $12. No response. I turned around. The back seat was empty. I blinked. Still empty. The door was closed. I got out, checked around the car. No one, just rain and black trees behind the fence. I got back inside. My heart was pounding. And then I saw it. A coin. Old. Dark. I picked it up. It was ice cold. I drove away. But something felt wrong. And then I noticed the first taxi. I pulled into the darkest, most confusing backlot I could find, killed the engine, and turned off the headlights. I sat there without breathing, listening. Silence. Just the sound of my own heartbeat and the rain. I reached into my pocket and took out the coin. It was no longer freezing cold. It was warm now, almost hot, and faintly pulsing in rhythm with my fear. A mark. That's what it was. A mark. That passenger, whatever he was, had marked me. And now every available taxi in the city, every empty shell under his control, could see me. I had become their new passenger. Someone to be delivered to the final destination, that cemetery, dead. And then it hit me. If there was a mark, there had to be a way to remove it. If there was a beginning, there had to be an end. The curse had started at those cemetery gates. Maybe that's where it had to end. I had to return the coin, give it back to whatever had given it to me. It was a crazy plan, walking straight back into the lion's mouth. But I didn't have a choice. I couldn't hide forever. Sooner or later, they would find me. I started the engine. The dented side of the car groaned in protest. As I pulled out of the lot, I saw them immediately. 3 cars, parked across the street, their green available lights staring straight at me, waiting. I slowly pulled forward, turned around, and drove, not away from them, but toward them, toward the industrial district, toward Old Riverside Cemetery. And that's when the real hunt began. It felt like every empty taxi in the city had gathered there. They weren't hiding anymore. Engines howled, brakes screamed, high beams blinded me. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of cars. They formed wedges, tried to ram me, forced me toward the edges of the road. I sped through the streets while, on both sides, this ghostly armada raced alongside me like an escort of death. My old sedan took hit after hit. The windshield cracked. The side mirror flew off. But the car held together. I gripped the wheel with one hand, the warm coin clenched in the other. I didn't look around. I just stared straight ahead at the road leading either to survival or to the end. The industrial zone. There it was. Rusted factory skeletons watched me with empty windows. The taxis grew more aggressive. One sped ahead and tried to turn into me head-on. I swerved, cutting across abandoned railroad tracks, the car jolting so hard my head slammed into the ceiling. And then I saw it, the familiar turn. Ahead, in the dim light of my remaining headlights, the iron fence and locked gates rose out of the darkness. I was back. I slammed on the brakes just a few yards from the gates. The pursuing cars closed in, forming a tight, unbreakable circle around me. Dozens of headlights turned night into day. Then, silence. Engines died all at once. They just sat there, waiting. I knew I had only one shot. I opened the door. Cold air hit my face. I stepped out, gripping the coin tightly in my fist. Instantly, every taxi blasted its high beams on, blinding me. Their engines roared back to life as they began to move, slowly, deliberately, tightening the circle, preparing to crush me along with my car. I ran. Half blind, stumbling, I sprinted toward the gates. The grinding of metal behind me grew louder. I reached the fence and shoved my hand through the cold, rain-slick bars. "Take it," I shouted into the empty darkness beyond. "I brought him." I opened my hand. The coin slipped from my fingers and rang against the ground on the other side. And in that exact moment, everything stopped. The lights went out. The engines cut off as if someone had flipped a massive switch. Every car froze in place. One by one, the green available lights on their roofs went dark. Absolute silence fell, pure, untouched, broken only by the sound of rain. I stood there, back pressed against the fence, gasping for air. The circle of cars around my sedan was no longer a threat. They were just metal. Empty, lifeless vehicles abandoned in the road. Some with shattered headlights, others dented and twisted. Soulless wrecks. Slowly, I walked back to my car. My old sedan was wrecked, but it had survived. I got behind the wheel. The suffocating, grave-like cold was gone. It was quiet, normal. I turned the key. The engine coughed and started. I didn't go back to the taxi depot. I went home. At dawn, after leaving the ruined car in the yard, I climbed up to my apartment. I threw my taxi uniform down the trash chute. The next day, I filed my resignation. No explanations. I never drove a taxi again. Sometimes, when I'm walking down the street and I see a white cab with a glowing green available sign, I freeze. A chill runs down my spine. I stare into the dark windshield, and for just a split second, it feels like there's no one behind the wheel, but they don't follow me anymore. My ride is over. I delivered my passenger and gave back the change, and I'm grateful I didn't have to join that ghostly fleet, forever circling the night streets, searching for the next soul.